Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Grab a cup of tea and let's talk some boxing. Now it's fight week for Derek Chisora versus Joseph Parker, and this is going to be an epic matchup. I don't think we can expect anything other than a toe-to-toe war. Now, obviously Joe Parker is more of a boxer than a fighter. I think we've seen that in the past, but at times when he does box, it's not like it's the best performance or entertaining. I mean, if you look at the fights with Fury and his recent one against Junior Farr, they're not the best entertaining fights for Joe Parker to be in, but nonetheless, he does often have a performance here and there where he is exciting and you can see glimpses of what he might be able to do. Now the hope is that Andy Lee can draw that out of him, but I guess we will have to wait and see and find out on May 1st. Now, Derek Chisora is always someone who brings the heat. He's always someone who's on it, who wants to just come and fight. But he is skillful in some ways, but he's not the best boxer. He's just a fighter who will get in the face of Joseph Parker and force him to fight his way. That is why it is important that Joe Parker has learned that he needs to get stuck in. He cannot just outbox a Derek Chisora. If he tries to do that, then Chisora's going to edge closer, getting closer and closer as the fight goes on. And I wouldn't say that Joe Parker can keep him away for that long. You need a good jab and a hard right hand, something to keep him at bay, and I just don't think that Joe Parker has that. So at some point he's going to have to engage with him and go toe to toe. Now that makes for a good fight as long as Joe Parker does do that. We've seen that, as I said, in glimpses, but we haven't seen him do that from the off. He kind of starts trying to box, and then in, say, the Dillian Whyte fight, he got dragged into more of a fight, and then he seems a bit muddled, like he seems caught between styles, like he doesn't really know what to do, what's the best game plan for that particular fight. And perhaps that is down to the training side, and Andy Lee will make sure things are different when it comes to that. His balance isn't always the best, but those are things again that he will work on with Andy Lee. So in this fight, I do want to see Joe Parker really give it his all. I want to see him give his best performance. I want to see a breakout performance as well. And I'm not sure if we will get that in this one due to the fact that he does have a new trainer. We have to look at that as well. It will take time for them to bond, for them to merge, to make sure that they have a good working relationship and the communication is on point. I wouldn't imagine that it would take too long, because they have kind of gelled quite quickly. As I said, we've seen Joe Parker get stuck in, we've seen him go toe-to-toe with Dillian Whyte. He dropped him in the final round, didn't stop him, and he said if he had a couple more seconds he would have been able to. But you have that amount of time, you have 12 rounds, 36 minutes to get rid of your man. If you can't do it in that time, then you can't do it in that time. That's just the way it works. So he needs to maintain that across the full 12 rounds instead of fighting in stints and going between styles. He seems like he is caught between styles when he's in there, and that is something he does need to sort out. He needs a game plan that he sticks to from start to finish. Of course, sometimes adjustments need to be made, but it seems like Parker is making adjustments in between rounds all the time. As I said, it just seems like he's muddled and caught between styles, and that is sometimes why maybe we don't see the best Joseph Parker. Perhaps he looks better in sparring and in training as opposed to in the ring on fight night. So hopefully they get that balance right going into this fight with Derek Chisora, because he can't do the same. He can't be muddled in this one. He needs to make sure he has a game plan from start to finish, make the necessary adjustments as he goes through, which are subtle adjustments, and then he will be able to get the victory. But if he is not, then Derek Chisora will beat him. That is the awesome thing about Derek Chisora. Time after time after time, he puts in a good performance, entertaining fights. That's why he has just come off of a loss to Alexander Usyk and goes back into a pay-per-view event. How many fighters do that continuously? Take a loss, then get straight back on a pay-per-view event. Derek Chisora is someone who does that continuously throughout his career. He has, 10 losses on his resume, but that doesn't matter because he brings the heat and he brings entertainment, value for money, and that is why everyone will always tune in to a Derek Chisora fight, because let's be real, if this was Joseph Parker versus Kubrat Pulev, it would not have the same spin on it. It would not have the same entertainment value, because you don't know what kind of fight you're going to get with those two in the ring. With Derek Chisora there, you know what fight you're going to get, because he's going to force his opponent to fight a certain way, and even if they are good enough to outbox him, even if they are good enough to find a way to beat him, he's going to give you value for money because he's not going to stop trying for the full 12 rounds. That is why Derek Chisora is able to continuously get on these pay-per-view shows, and because he takes these kind of fights. I mean, he just lost it to Alexander Usyk, which was a close fight. I mean, you could have given that a draw because it was that close. But he loses that one. Then he says, yeah, let's go with Joseph Parker. Many fighters would say, okay, I need to come back. I need to assess certain things, maybe take some time off. But Derek Chisora just brushes himself off and continues. Yes, he's towards the later half of his career and he doesn't really have time to take these months off. I mean, he is only 36, which is young for a heavyweight still. I mean, heavyweights go on forever. But anyway, he still manages to get back in there and he still wants to just get back and fight. He doesn't really care about taking time off, comeback fights, getting back to winning ways. What is important for Derek Chisora is being in these kind of fights, and I do believe that Derek Chisora definitely has a chance of beating Joe Parker because I don't think we've seen enough from Joe Parker to prove to us that Joe Parker is capable of overcoming all of the obstacles that Derek Chisora will present when they get in the ring. I mean, Joe Parker's best performance is undoubtedly against Andy Ruiz Jr., but since then we haven't seen much from Joseph Parker to prove to you that he is at the top of the heavyweight division, that he can compete with those guys, because every time he's gone there, say against AJ, say against Dillian White, he has come unstuck. And the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight is the one where he has stood out and been able to get the victory, overcoming the obstacles in that fight, because Andy Ruiz Jr. gave him hell in the first 3 rounds, but Parker was able to adjust, use his footwork, and ultimately he was able to outbox Andy Ruiz Jr. to ensure that he wasn't engaging and fighting the way that Ruiz wanted. But still, things will have to be different from his previous performances if he is going to beat Derek Chisora, because Chisora is someone who also will bring the heat, who won't allow him to rest for a moment, and if Parker gets caught between styles, then Derek Chisora will capitalise. So all in all, I'm not just excited to see this new Joseph Parker, to see how he's gelled with his new trainer, I'm also excited to see Derek Chisora back as well, because I think that he deals with this extremely well. Going from big fight to big fight, whether he wins or loses, he still gives a good account of himself and warrants being there in the first place. So I do always enjoy and get excited for a Derek Chisora fight, because you just know what you're going to get. How many performances has he given where you thought, well, that was just rubbish? I mean, Kawayel comes to mind, but when he's in these big fights with like Usyk and now going in against Joseph Parker, the Dillian White fights, remember those fights? Just incredible fights, and I believe we are in for another one on May 1st. But guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.